Hafaday and good evening to everybody. The Committee on Health, Tourism, Military Affairs, and Senior Citizens now convenes this public hearing. Public hearing notices were provided to the media, first notice on Thursday, March 29, 2018, and second notice on Wednesday, April 4th, 2018. For the record, today is Tuesday, April 10, and the time now is 5:36 p.m. The committee will hear and accept testimonies, both oral and written, on the following. Bill 232-34 is an act to add a new Chapter 91B to Division 4 of Title 10 of the Guam Code Annotated, relative to prohibiting abortion of unborn children capable of feeling pain, to amend Sections 3218A of Chapter 3, Division 1 of Title 10 of the Guam Code Annotated, relative to attending physician abortion reporting requirements, and to cite the act as the Unborn Child Protection Act of 2018. I want to thank my colleagues who are here with me this evening, Senator Nelson, Senator Lee, Senator Muña, Senator Morrison, Senator San Nicolas, Senator Torres, Senator Uggan, and Vice Speaker. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. Also want to recognize former Senator Carlota Leon Guerrero. Thank you very much for being here. Because we do have a long list of individuals who wish to testify, I'm going to request that your oral testimony be limited to 5 minutes. And so if you have written testimony, the committee will accept it, and you can submit that here with us today, or we'll give you additional time after the hearing today to submit any written testimony that you wish to provide. I'll call up the first group of individuals. Carlota Leon Guerrero, if you can please, if you wish to testify and I call your name, please come forward. Dr. Andy Berdalio, Lina Leon Guerrero, Dr. Mariana Cook Hyun, Anita P. Ariola, Dr. Juan Rapadas, Cirilla Rapadas. Okay, you're Michelle Armenta, Father Jeff San Nicolas, I think we have a few more seats. Christy Alcantara, Camille Visperas, Mary Claire Snare. Okay, we'll hold off with the remaining after this panel. Okay, just a brief introduction on Bill 232, as I read the title earlier. Bill 232, what this bill does is it establishes a compelling interest in protecting the lives of the unborn children at which substantial medical evidence indicates that they are capable of feeling pain at 20 weeks or more. And so this establishes a statutory prohibition on abortions for 26 or more. And so now I'll welcome the testimony of those who are present before us today. We'll start off by Senator Leon Guerrero.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Oh, thank you. I would like to say, Mr. Chairman, that having been in your seats, all of your seats, I understand how compelling it is when you hear the words pain and child in a sentence and the need to do something. And so having been in your seats, I understand that. And I think that where I took it and what I did is I looked at existing code, existing laws of where there is pain in children, where there is places that I can do the work and not get wrapped around a legal axle. So what I did is I went and I took a look at some of the existing code, and the Child Protective Act is 52 pages long. There is so much in here. You could spend your entire legislative career in the Child Protective Act. The Child Protective Act is pretty much handled in Child Protective Services. And I looked at their 2017 report, and this is a report that goes to the legislature, and I wanted to let all of you know and be aware of some of these statistics. There is a category in Child Protective Services called maltreatment of children. There are 3,449 children on Guam in 2017 under a category called maltreatment of children. And of that 3,449, 175 of them are in a crisis situation. So then the figures go on even further that you have, that is given to you as lawmakers, Child Protective Services, is they break it down by age and how young the children are. And it's just staggering how young the children are. Between the ages of just given birth and 1 year of age, there's 105 children. In Child Protective Services last year alone, between the day they are born and 1 year of age, 105 children, under a category, maltreatment of children, and possibly many of them in crisis. So then when you go on and read further into this Child Protective Services report, you find out that they are being denied justice. There were 480 some cases referred to for the legal system, and they left over 200 of them on the table without any disposition. So that means maltreated children in protective services in crisis situations are not making it through the legal system. That means they need social workers, they need investigators, they need lawyers. That's what a logjam looks like. You read further through the report and you find out that these children are now being denied mental health services for emotionally disturbed children. It's been cut by a third. There were 66 meetings in 2015, it was 14 last year. So at a time when you've got these figures, and they need the help the most, so this is a place where you should be working. This is pain in children. Take your compelling feeling to do something for pain in children and drive it into these numbers. And then the next staggering thing that I found is there is, and I commend Senator Rodriguez for creating this law, there is a Child Fatality Review Council that has been created for the reason that there is so much concern about the infant mortality rate here on Guam, that the government of Guam has a infant fatality review council, and this was created by Senator Rodriguez in July of 2013, I believe. So the report was issued in 2015 to the chairman and to the governor. I couldn't find it widely. I had to go looking for it. And so I have a copy of that. And so again, this just paints such a case of where the pain in children is now existing. And 83 children died from 2013 to 2016, between 28 days and less. From the day they were born until they are 28 days old, 83 children died. And the major reason for this is lack of prenatal care for poor women. That's what this report says. You can read the whole thing, but that's what it comes down to. So I commend the chairman for creating the Child Fatality Review Council. And I highly encourage all of you to look at this and see the roadmap that this council has created for you to help protect and safeguard and guard from pain the children. And thank you very much.
Zeus Masi, thank you very much, Senator. Dr. Annie Berdalio.
I'm Dr. Annie Berdalio. I practice obstetrics and gynecology here. I'm board certified. I'm a fellow of the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. And I'm appearing today before this body in opposition to Bill number 232-34, the Unborn Child Protection Act of 2018. It is the intent of this body to assert a compelling governmental interest in protecting the lives of unborn children from the stage of their physiological development at which medical evidence indicates that they are capable of experiencing pain. I'm not sure where this medical evidence comes from. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, as well as a review of the research by the Journal of the American Medical Association, states there's no evidence that fetuses feel pain until after the 24th, and most likely not until the 29th week of gestation. I'm also not aware that any physician on island performs abortions post 20 weeks that would be particularly painful to the fetus. According to Dr. Freeman, the lone abortion provider on Guam, most of these second trimester abortions are done because of the presence of fetal abnormalities. There's no provision in this law for fetal illnesses that may place an undue burden on the mother and her family. Many women do not have access to care and may not even get an ultrasound until the 20th week of her pregnancy. Limiting these procedures based on evidence that is not accepted by the leading organizations in the field doesn't make any sense. The procedure itself involves, the procedure that Dr. Freeman does involves an injection of medication into the amniotic fluid that stops the baby's heart. The patient is then given medication that puts her into labor, and she delivers a stillborn fetus. The painful passage is the mother's to bear, not the fetus's. Women understand this and bear this burden, and by the way, consent to this process. The fact that these laws that continue to impose restrictions on and criminalize doctors and not the women who find themselves in these difficult situations bears witness to the sympathy and empathy we as a community and you as lawmakers have for them. I think we should trust that leaving these decisions in their hands serves the compelling interests of our community. The rest of the bill detailing what makes up a life-threatening emergency, illness, how fast health deteriorates in these situations, puts undue stress on the physician. I spend many nights trying to decide when to end a pregnancy, when a patient is sick, balancing the health of the mother and the health of the fetus. I can't remember one circumstance in the 25 years I've been practicing that the life of the baby was considered more important than the life of the mother. I'm held accountable for my medical decisions every day. It is never in my mind that I might be breaking the law. I may end a pregnancy with the intent to save the mom, knowing that the baby will not survive. Does that make me a criminal under this law? I can think of circumstances that a grandmother, spouse, sister didn't agree with the management of the patient, and under this statute can hold me accountable if my intent was not to save the baby. I think we should trust that the women can make these decisions. How sick does mom have to get? In our line of work, preventing life-threatening situations saves lives. Abortion will continue to be a divisive issue in our country. No amount of arguing, cajoling, accusing will lead one side of the debate to change over to the other side. If you as a lawmaker truly believe abortion should be illegal, then stand up and be counted. Slowly introducing bits of legislation that serve no other purpose than to regulate an already over-regulated healthcare practice, and then standing up and saying that you are not trying to eliminate a woman's choice to handle her healthcare needs privately and safely doesn't ring true. The lack of adequate healthcare access here on Guam self-regulates our abortion practices. The reporting requirements are incredible. In Section 3218, the 25 listed identifiers are incredibly specific. As a physician, I can't imagine what public health needs all this information for. Dr. Freeman informs me he's due to retire in June, leaving the women in Guam without access to any abortion. The identifiers of the facilities, the clinics, the specifics of the report are enough to discourage any provider from stepping in to take his place. We have a self-limiting community here. All of us are born and raised in this community. Just look behind me. We are not the highest number, a place that has an abortion problem. All of these laws are really devaluing women. First, we have a consent law that requires women to look at pictures of fetuses. Some of them that didn't pass was they wanted to look at an ultrasound to see a heartbeat, as if women don't understand what an abortion is. As if women don't know these are babies. They know. We're not stupid. This law, now, it prosecutes doctors. So women are just having something done to them. They're not choosing to have an abortion of a baby that may not have much of a life if it is born. No, it's the doctors that are doing this incredibly painful, unacceptable procedure to them. What does that say about women? Now we have to protect them from doctors? Because, yeah, you know, as women, we really don't know about what our body is capable of doing. This law has it doesn't allow people to have psychological pain. We've spent many years talking about mental health services. How many years have we spent in this more and more violent community, not us, but in the States, everybody shooting everybody. Mental health is a real issue. But this law, no, you have to almost be dying physically. The mental anguish, yeah, that's not good enough. When are we going to value women above the unborn? In our community, we love babies. We value babies. Women are having more babies than sometimes probably they should have. Carlotta's statistics about all the children out there that are born that aren't getting their needs met. We don't need regulation. We have regulation. Most of us are Catholic. They're not getting abortions. They're going to get one abortion. This bill specifically addresses a unique subset of abortions that we do rarely here on Guam, and after June 1st may not even be available. And Dr. Freeman tells me over 90% of them are because the baby's sick. How much bodily harm as a woman do I have to accept? When am my value as a person to make these decisions going to count more? We're going backwards as women, I'm telling you. We don't need more laws. We don't. We regulate these things pretty nicely in our community. We don't need people that really aren't involved in the day-to-day lives of healthcare to be passing legislation like this. All these women go to church. They're going to see these signs. They hear all of this stuff all the time. They're going to make those decisions based on this morality. People aren't walking in the door to have second trimester abortions for fun.
Okay, Doc,
I
if you
think
could
we
please
should
wrap
start
up.
trusting those women to make those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. Ms. Lina Leon Guerrero.
Thank you, Senator, and good evening to everybody. My name is Lina Sanchez Leon Guerrero. I'm here as the mother of 4 grown children, 2 daughters and 2 sons. I'm blessed to be the grandmother of a granddaughter. I'm one of 7 siblings. I come from a big family, 4 girls and 3 boys. I'm rooted in this community. I'm a proud daughter of Guam. For those who don't know me, I've been working in healthcare for almost 35 years. That's pretty scary for me to say out loud, I have to say. I was in health planning for 5 years. I was at GMH for 12 years. And for the last 18 years, I've been in women's healthcare, working at MPG in Saguat Manyagu. I'm rooted in this community. I'm a proud daughter of Guam. I'm not here to talk about the unconstitutionality of this bill. I'm not here to speak about the lack of medical evidence or science to support the findings of this bill. And I'm not here to speak about the moral or religious values that are intrinsic to this bill, because I believe that my personal ideology, my personal values are just that. They're personal. My personal choices and ideology do not rise to the level of compelling government interest. I'm here to oppose the passage of Bill 232-34. This bill proposes to substitute legislation for a woman's right to decide what's in her best interest and the best interest of her family. It threatens a woman's privacy with extensive reporting requirements that are related to her personal choice. It impedes access to health care by imposing criminal and civil penalties upon physicians who are just acting upon a woman's decision. And it subjugates a woman's decision to others, including, quote unquote, any person who is the spouse, parent, sibling, or guardian of, or a current or former health care provider. Bill 232-34 fails to trust women in this community and their decisions. I urge the legislature to trust us. Trust the daughters of Guam. By doing what's in the best interest of our families and ourselves, I assure you, we are and will continue to act in the best interest of this community. Please vote no on Bill 32-34. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mariana?
Sorry for being late. My name is Dr. Mariana Cook-Huen, is how you say my last name. I'm a family medicine physician. I work at MPG Sagwa as well. I did an extra year of fellowship to do OB, and I do a lot of women's health, but I also do pediatrics all the way to the dying elderly. I am here in opposition of Bill 232-34. I would like to read a statement for Dr. Ellen Bez, who is not able to be here. So I will read that for you today. I have been a women's health physician, this is Dr. Bez speaking, an internist for the past 25 years, working to improve health care for all our island women. I am submitting this written testimony in opposition to proposed legislation to ban abortions after 20 weeks. When a woman and her family have to make a decision to end a pregnancy, it is often a difficult decision, stressful and filled with fear and anxiety. The physical and emotional consequences of making this decision require the care, trust, and understanding of their physician. Decisions to continue or end a pregnancy are ones that are best made with the patient and the doctor sitting together in the privacy of their medical office and should not be governed by what senators think is in the best interest of the patient, which is exactly what this bill is doing. The bill directly places the government in the doctor's office by forcing doctors to do what's in the law rather than what may be in the best interest of the patient and her family. The patient needs to be secure in the knowledge that decisions with her doctor are private. Bill 232-34 not only takes away a woman's privacy, but controls what may or may not be in the best interest of her health. It attempts to replace a physician's medical judgment and interferes in how physicians care for their patients. This poses a real threat to women's health in instances when the life of the mother is threatened. The doctor's judgment may be affected by a law that imposes criminal and monetary penalties on his or her ability to act in a patient's best interest. Would you want your doctor in a life-threatening situation to hesitate in doing what is in your best interest because he or she feared paying penalties or going to jail? The foundation on which this legislation is based is the claim that a fetus can feel pain at 20 weeks. This claim is based on information that is not supported by the medical community and is not based on good science. The American Congress of Obstetrics and Gynecology, ACOG, is the leading profession association of physicians specializing in women's health care. Kate Connors, a spokesperson for ACOG, said in a 2016 position paper, "The science shows that based on gestational age, the fetus is not capable of feeling pain until the third trimester. The third trimester begins at about 27 weeks of pregnancy." There are multiple studies documented in the medical literature that support that a fetus does not feel pain until 27 weeks of pregnancy. When medical evidence is presented in a bill, it is important that we as patients know where that evidence comes from and if those facts are coming from evidence-based peer-reviewed studies. The proposed legislation on Guam does not allow for exceptions for fatal genetic abnormalities of the fetus, which may not be detected until after 20 weeks gestation. These fatal abnormalities may put a woman's life at risk. ACOG, in a position paper written in 2016 to defend against similar legislation proposed in Washington, states, "Her decision should be based on individual circumstances and personal beliefs without interference from politicians." The majority of pregnancy terminations after 20 weeks are performed in hospitals by highly trained OBGYNs. Nearly all of these procedures are performed for lethal fatal anomalies and serious medical conditions of the mother. By not allowing exceptions, the proposed legislation forces a woman to carry her pregnancy to term when, 1, there is no chance of meaningful neonatal survival, and 2, the woman herself is at risk of death. In summary, this bill is based on faulty science that a fetus feels pain at 20 weeks gestation. It jeopardizes a woman's right to privacy in her doctor's office. It imposes possible penalties on doctors who may have to act on a woman's behalf in a life-threatening situation. And it does not make any provisions or exceptions if a fetus is diagnosed with a fatal genetic abnormality that can often not be detected until after 20 weeks. This bill is poorly conceived and written. It is meant to impose restrictions on a woman's constitutional right to determine what is in her and her family's best interest. Bill 232-34 should not be considered. Please vote no.
Thank you very much. Ms. Anita Arriola.
Thank you, Senator Rodriguez. And thank you, Senators, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am opposed to Bill 232-34. I have written testimony that I'm going to submit to the legislature. I think you all know what it's going to say, because if you've done your homework and you've done your research, you know that this bill is unconstitutional. A 20-week gestational ban has already been struck down twice as unconstitutional by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is our circuit. Also, if you've done your homework and your research, you know that similar gestational bans, 15 weeks in Mississippi, 12 weeks in Arkansas, and 6 weeks in North Dakota, have also been held unconstitutional. You've now heard from Dr. Bez about the fact that there is no medical evidence supporting the premise of this bill that fetuses feel pain at 20 weeks. So we have no legal justification for this bill, and we have no factual justification for this bill. Why are we here? This bill is not about addressing fetal pain perception, and it's not about medicine. This is about politics. We should not let politicians prevent a woman from making the best decision given her personal circumstances. If you all intend to pass this bill into law and challenge Roe versus Wade, let me suggest that other states are already doing it. The state of Mississippi has already indicated they will take this case all the way to the Supreme Court. Why does Guam have to do it? And who's going to pay for it? All of you? Are you going to vote for the funds to defend this law when it's already been held unconstitutional in our circuit? You know, senators, it's so easy to copy this bill from the Americans United for Life. It's so easy to put your name on it and to say I'm a sponsor and, you know, we should pass this law. It's so easy to write blogs about being pro-life. It's so easy to make signs and come to the legislature and say you want to rally for life. But what have any of you done about the child abuse that has become a frightening epidemic on our island? What about the real, live, living children who are suffering real pain and real harm every day? Where are you all at then? Where are the signs for them? Where are the rallies and where are the protests for them? And we don't have to go too far back to find out about these situations. They're in our papers every single day. In September of last year, 3 men were charged with gang raping a 15-year-old girl and recording the assault. On January 12th of this year, a 12-year-old girl alleged she was repeatedly sexually assaulted by a 19-year-old male. On January 22nd, a 51-year-old man broke into a Manilo apartment and sexually assaulted a 9-year-old girl. On January 25th, 2018, trial started for a 22-year-old man charged with repeatedly raping a 14-year-old girl. On February 1st, 2018, a man was sentenced to 2.5 years for sexual assault of a 10-year-old girl. On March 3rd, 2018, a man was charged with alleged sexual assault of a 4-year-old girl who was taken to GMH with blood dripping down her legs. Are you making signs for them? Are you rallying for their cause? Are you protesting the senators and the government of Guam for not doing enough for them? For almost 30 years, I have represented minors and juveniles in court under PINS petitions, persons in need of services. I invite all of you to come to these court hearings and to really see the children of Guam who are in pain, because it's easy to argue for a fetus when they're not in front of you, and you don't see their pain, and you don't have to deal with the lifelong consequences of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse and trauma. That's easy. It's not so easy when you deal with live, living children. I encourage you and I urge you to vote against Bill 232-34. Thank you very much.
Si Jusmasi, thank you very much. Dr. Juan Rapadas? Oh, you're good. Cirilla Rapadas? She's fine. Father Jeff, we'll go ahead and recognize you.
Dear Senators, the peace of Christ be with you. Thank you for this opportunity to address the legislative body and the people of Guam. Archbishop Michael Burns is off island at this time, meeting with other bishops in Oceania in Papua New Guinea. I'm privileged to convey his position and that of the Archdiocese of Agana in support of Bill 232-34, the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act of 2018. Our Catholic Church on Guam is also bolstered by its support of our unborn through the testimony and presence of numerous members of the Archdiocese and of our Guam Catholic Pro-Life Committee. Pro-Life Committee members have worked diligently for many months, sharing input with authors of this legislation and garnering the signatures of support from Catholics throughout our parishes. We express our thanks for all of them and the faith and dedication they have exhibited. Much has occurred since the tragic instance 45 years ago, when the United States Supreme Court made its life-changing, life-taking decision to legislate abortion in our country, to legalize abortion in our country. With tremendous strides in communication technology, we believe that today many more people in our society now recognize the 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling to be an utter mistake. It is a grave shame against that which we human beings instinctively cherish, the gift of life. It is in our nature as human beings to love life, to cherish life, and to certainly protect life in its purest, most vulnerable, and most innocent of forms. We have been endowed with this nature by God, our Creator, the architect of life. Humanity was made to love, not destroy. Our testimony today and those of many who have come here with strong emotions will not immediately put an end to abortion. However, it is our prayer that each of you, our distinguished legislators, will be moved to support the passage of the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, and thus save a good number of precious human lives here in our island. The atrocity of abortion is compounded by scientific studies that report that at the gestation age of 20 weeks, a fetus in the womb already feels pain. Pain is a very mild word to describe the excruciating suffering each unborn child feels upon the tearing apart of the limbs and body parts. We pray that our dear legislators on Guam courageously accomplish that which their counterparts in the nation's capital could not or would not do recently. Last January, H.R. 36, the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, went before the members of the United States Senate. The legislature would criminalize abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy. The bill required 60 votes to advance to the Senate, but sadly it was blocked in a procedural vote, 51 to 46. I would like to quote a portion of the reaction from Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the chair of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, Committee on Pro-Life Activities. The U.S. Senate failed to adopt the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, published prohibiting abortion at 20 weeks post-fertilization, is appalling. Abortions performed in the second half of the pregnancy usually involve brutally dismembering a defenseless unborn child, while also posing serious danger to his or her mother. The Senate's rejection of this common sense legislation is radically out of step with most Americans. Opinion polls constantly show that a strong majority of the public oppose late-term abortions, including those who self-identify as pro-choice. Furthermore, the United States is currently one of only 7 countries that allows abortions beyond 20 weeks. The other 6 are North Korea, China, Vietnam, Singapore, Canada, and the Netherlands. The Senate must rethink its extreme stance on late-term abortions. I call upon the public to tell the Senate that this vote is absolutely unacceptable." End quote. In a message a month earlier, September 2017, Cardinal Dolan said, "What does it say about us as a nation if we will not act against abortion that even full-time abortionists find abhorrent?" End quote. Cardinal Dolan reaffirmed the right to life of humans in every stage of development and clarified that the Church remains committed to advocating for the full legal protection of all unborn children. He stated, "Every child from conception onward deserves love and the protection under the protection of the law. The real problems that lead women to consider abortion should be addressed with solutions that support both mother and child." Dear Senators of Guam, we are here to implore you. We have always touted our Pacific community as one which places great value on family and children. This is a time to demonstrate these qualities. Let our small island of Guam be the giant example to the rest of the United States. Pass Bill 232-34 and save the lives of numerous unborn on our island from the horrible fate of death by dismemberment and through abortion. If I have a little bit more time, I just wanted to react to some of the comments, because I think for the Catholic Church, the stance is very clear. I realize this is a complicated issue, but from the Catholic Church's perspective, it's very clear. Do we believe that this child is a baby? Is it a baby? And I was very moved that several of the women who spoke earlier recognized and said it's a baby. I was very shocked when they said how one doctor here on Guam, they just put a solution into the fluid of the child to kill the baby. For me, that was all the evidence I needed, that we recognize that it is a life. Not to say that women don't have rights, the mother, the patients don't have rights, but that child has rights. Who is going to speak up for that child, that baby in the womb? Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Father, thank you. Ms. Alcantara? Just press the button in the middle. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christy Alcantara. I teach at the Academy of Our Lady of Guam. Let me just go quick. I numbered my items just so there is enough time. My first point is, yes, this bill is about addressing the pain of children. And I'd like to dare claim that when we civilized communities think of addressing the pain of children, we mean all children, not just children at a certain age, not even when the child is visible, but all children. It's interesting that we always put the child in the womb almost always against the concerns of their mother, and almost always against the concerns of the children that are already born. These are all children. And if they are in pain, what must adults do? Do everything you can to take away the pain. Shouldn't our law protect them all? And a society that accepts the murder of the most innocent will eventually cause a mentality that results exactly in those horrible situations that Attorney Ariola so clearly explicitated before us. My second point, there certainly are opposing and conflicting claims regarding when does a child in utero feel the pain. And we've heard very clearly and succinctly that OBGYNs and the American Medical Association have said that they don't feel pain up until the 3rd trimester. But there are opposing claims, certainly, and most especially by pediatricians and neonatal care physicians. The fact that those in utero that had to be subjected to some surgery that would assume that they're going to feel the pain are given doses of anesthesia is evidence that they feel the pain. My 3rd point. Making sure that a woman getting an abortion or inquiring about it is informed of all of the medical risks, whether it be just making sure that she knows all of it, I don't think is insulting to the woman. There are already evidences, women who've had an abortion who were interviewed, that they were kept in the dark when they speak to their abortionist. It's empowering them. If this is really about choice, then yeah, let's give them that choice by informing them all of the options and all of the side effects of the procedures. Empowering women is helping them overcome the crisis, not escape from it, and then face the consequences and leave them to face the consequences on their own later on. My 4th point. Is this bill creating an enmity between the woman and her doctor? Well, I guess yes, but it will be creating an enmity between the woman and the doctor who intend not her concern, not really her welfare, but those doctors' profits, or any pro-life bill of the sort. Yes, the law must be on the side of that woman. My 5th point. Dilation and curettage is essentially dismembering a fetus around 23 weeks of age. Dismembering, pulling apart the baby's limbs. Let's assume that A, the child does not feel the pain, or B, prior to dismemberment, an injection of anesthesia is given, so the child will not feel the pain. Does it then make the dismemberment procedure humane? My last point. Laws and societies that achieve greater recognition and protection of life, most especially the innocent. How is that not progress? Thank you.
Mrs. Uspansi, thank you. Ms. Perez? Mary Claire Snare? Yeah. Sorry? Go ahead, ma'am. Okay, Michelle Armenta, yes, sorry. Okay,
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I came here not having anything prepared, so this is really just going to be, I signed up just in case I had something to say, and turns out I do have something to say. I'm not a doctor. You know, I've never had any interest in the the medical profession, but I am a woman who, at the age of 19, signed up for an abortion. I went to my mom, and I wasn't very good at talking about it. I asked her, hypothetically, what would you do if I was pregnant? And she said, you better not be. And I said, I know, but what if I am? And she said, you better not be. And I was like, yeah, but Mom, what if I am? And she said, you better not be. And it was that moment that I decided, well, I guess I better not be. So I signed up for an abortion. And I went into the clinic, and my boyfriend paid the $200, and I got on the table, and he went to take a pregnancy test real quick, and he said, well, the pregnancy is going away. And I said, what do you mean it's going away? And he just said, it's going away. So I can leave? Yes, you can leave. And the thing is, that's how much consideration went into me getting an abortion. And as it turns out that there's a little bit more to it than that, because later on I realized that after having an abortion, it decreases cervical resistance due to forced dilation, which can cause you, causes you to dilate before reaching full term, and can cause spontaneous abortions or miscarriages of future pregnancies. And when that happens, it puts you at the risk of preterm birth. And I do know that statistically over 1 million children die every year due to prematurity. So it can have an effect on your future pregnancies. And had I known that, I wouldn't have considered it. What I didn't know also is that by having an abortion, it doubles the risk of sterility. So after having an abortion, that could run the risk of me not having any future kids. And as it turns out, it did, you know, it was very difficult for me to conceive later on, even though I didn't have an abortion, which just made me appreciate my child that I have now even more. But to think that, oh yeah, women know exactly what it is they're doing and what they're doing, yeah, maybe they do. You know, but I think a lot of women, especially young women, don't know exactly what it is that they have. And, you know, a lot of people think, well, you know, as long as you have your abortion soon enough, well, it's okay. You know, well, what is soon enough? Because as it turns out, at around 3 weeks, the baby already has its heartbeat and it's pumping its own blood. And you know, it has its own blood type and it has its own DNA, and the sex has been determined. So yeah, it's a small child, but it's still a child. Whereas I always just thought it was just a clump of cells, but a clump of cells doesn't have a heartbeat now, does it? Now, I've heard some testimony here that there's nothing saying that a child at 20 weeks can feel pain, but I do also know, and I have read testimonies from doctors, Maureen Kondik, PhD, who is an associate professor of neurobiology and anatomy at the University of Utah, and obtained her PhD from the University of California, Berkeley. She said, and I quote, "The neural circuitry responsible for most primitive response to pain, the spinal reflex, is in place by 8 weeks of development. This is the earliest point at which the fetus experiences pain in any capacity." So you can find that testimony online, and you know, that's not the only doctor who's ever made that testimony. I'm not a doctor, you know, but I think the University of California, Berkeley is fairly reputable, so she might have something, you know, to believe there. I also heard testimonies about women's health care. Now, as you've heard, having an abortion can affect and harm a woman, and it can harm her future pregnancies, and it can harm her child as well. Now, I'm not saying that a woman shouldn't go in to see her doctor if she's having problems because the child that's in her womb is going to cause her to die. I'm thinking that if a woman is having problems and the death of the child is at risk, or the death of the mother is a possibility, I think that you should go in, see the doctor, and the doctor should do their very best to save the both of them. Now, one or both may die, but from what I understand, it is the doctor's responsibility to save lives, not to make the choice as to who should die and who should not, which also leads to the point of all these other statistics about from birth to 1 year, 105 kids are denied, you know, medical services, and we need more social workers, and 83 children have or 83 women or children have problems because their mothers didn't have, I mean, these are all terrible things.
It was 83 children that died between the age of...
Oh, sorry.
It was 83 children died, death. That's the figure between 28 days, day 1 and 28 days. And that's a figure that's in the Child Fatality Review Council in a law that was created by Senator Rodriguez. So that is a serious body of work.
Yes, it is. And there's a lot of child abuse going on, and a lot of kids are malnourished, and, a lot of kids are abused. I was sexually abused when I was a child also. But all in all, I've even been raped by my ex-husband. And I've had some bad things happen to me. But I do have a good life, and although you can't tell, I am happy. But I guess at what point is it okay, or I guess at what age is it okay to kill the person and to make that determination as to whether or not they're going to have a good life or not? I mean, if I did go ahead and continue and had a child at the age of 19, would I have struggled? Probably. Would I have gone to college? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how you can, I mean, I guess when is it okay to kill the child? Why just the child? Somebody once explained to me, I have the right, to throw my fist around, but my right ends where his nose begins. At what point is it somebody's right? I can do this, I just can't touch you. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. You don't harm somebody. You don't go in with the intention to kill somebody because of a bad situation. I guess, and to think that there are too many kids that are being born. I mean, if you look at like the baby boomer generation, you can follow, the trends of what is selling by that population because there's so many people. Pampers exploded when the baby boomers came in, then toys, and now we're going to the retirement age, and now look what's happening. Kids R Us is closing down. It's shutting down because there simply aren't enough kids. It's because abortion has just been taken over, and I don't know, I guess.
Ma'am, if I may request you to just wrap up, please.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I want to thank you all for your testimony this evening. Thank you very much. If you have written testimony, if you can please provide it to us, so it'll be part of the record. Thank you. I'll call Mr. Bob Pelkey, Mr. Joseph Akfaji, Reynaldo Delisai, Marilu Martinez. Just please come forward as I call your name if you wish to provide oral testimony. Mr. Julius Santos. Mr. Robert Gleeman. I'm sorry if I... Sharon O'Malley. Okay, yes, ma'am. Mr. Pelkey, go ahead and start with you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and Vice Speaker Terlaje and fellow senators. I'm here today to testify in support of Bill 232-34, representing my brother Knights of the Knights of Columbus. And we are Catholic men that honor and respect our women. And we we're here to take a stand because what you stand for clearly defines you. Dear members of the Committee on Health and Tourism, Military Affairs, senior citizens, honorable senators of the 24th Guam Legislature, half a day. The Knights of Columbus State Council of Guam and all of its subordinate councils and assemblies submit the following excerpt from the Seek First the Kingdom, Challenging the Culture by Living Our Faith, submitted by Cardinal Donald W. Wuerl, Archbishop of Washington, in support of the passage of Bill number 232-34 by the Legislatura en Guahan. Every member of the faithful, especially those engaged in political activity, must act out of a well-informed Christian conscience. Lawmakers have to consider the moral implications of their votes. As Aristotle pointed out many years ago, the law is a teacher. For many people, what is legal becomes what is right. It should be, but it's not always so. Slavery is one historical example. Abortion is the current one. We live in a culture now that has been formed by laws that permit the casual destruction of the most innocent and most vulnerable human lives. What do such laws teach? What sort of culture are we forming? It is the job of the bishops to make clear how the gospel message applies to the circumstance of our day. But it is the task of the laity to make an effort to understand those teachings, especially those that are most relevant to their work, and apply them to the practical order of public policy. It is for this reason that the bishops have so consistently taught that abortion, which takes the life of an unborn human being, is intrinsically evil. It can never be justified. Abortion is an action clearly and decisively condemned in the teachings of the early church. Certainly no position has been so clearly and strongly stated by the bishops of the United States. It is as clear today as it's always been. The Catholic Church opposes abortion because abortion is a moral evil. As abortion is wrong, so quite logically, legislative support for abortion is wrong. The Vatican Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, citing the teaching of Blessed John Paul II, recently clarified that voting for legislation supporting abortion is gravely wrong. So often the attempt to justify voting for pro-abortion legislation is made by the claim that the legislature, the legislator, personally is opposed to abortion, but wants to allow people a choice. The flaw in this argument is obvious. When you choose something. When you say, I choose, you have to complete the sentence. As Pope John Paul reminded us, ours is a choice between the culture of life and the culture of death. So along with my brothers of the Knights of Columbus, we plead that you pass Bill 232-34 and protect God's children.
Still small seat. Thank you very much. Mr. Ekfaji?
Hafiday Todos Hamzu. My name is Joseph Ekfaji, resident of Agana Heights, retired Government of Guam employee, currently an employee of the Department of Education Division of Chamorro Studies. and a member of the St. Jude Parish Knights of Columbus. Jesus Masi, Senators Dennis Rodriguez, Joe St. Augustine, Tilina Nelson, Frank Algun, and Tommy Morrison for proposing Bill number 232-34, referred to as the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act of 2018. The following is my testimony regarding the bill. I am here to testify in favor of the bill. I know that there will be ample testimonies presented to you based on scientific facts and moral conviction. I will present to you from another perspective coming from the unborn. I hope it provides justice to them, the most innocent children of God. Imagine for a moment the serenity of a pristine and majestic environment that I am in. To say the least, a unique and blessed place. An awesome sight indeed. A beautiful creation of God that provides the boundless comfort and sustenance for me. It has everything that I need for my well-being. The wonderment of it all is that it was designed specifically for my optimal growth, to ensure that I develop a sound mind, strong body, and God-filled spirit. It is not by chance that this special place came into existence. It is the Creator's desire that such dwelling is revered at the highest level, and the occupancy is afforded the utmost respect and protection. I ask myself, what entitles me to live in this sacred home that was created by God just for me? My brothers and sisters, the simple and only reason is that I was chosen as one of His sheep. I was formed in His likeness and image. Under no circumstance will He cast me out from the safety of the home that He built for me. Sadly, the parents of the growing baby in the mother's womb can take away that precious life. It is perplexing to grasp. How is that possible? How can parents permit the killing of a person of their own flesh and blood? Now let me pose a question to everyone in this room who are of sound mind. Has anyone ever regretted, really and truly was depressed for being born? I venture to say that there is no one present here that can honestly state that life is not worth sustaining. I kindly ask for those who can hold their breath for just 30 seconds to do so at this time. Thank you for your cooperation. Certainly, there was some level of discomfort that everyone must have felt, especially nearing the requested target time of being deprived of air. I am tempted to engage you again on another pain-stricken activity, but my conscience prevents me from doing so. Of course, I dare not ask for you to attempt in enduring even for a moment a serious but non-life-threatening self-inflicted pain. To do so would only guarantee a spot for me on the dark side of humanity. My brothers and sisters, the time has come for me to be slaughtered like the sacrificial lamb. My mother chose to allow the people dressed in white to cut me up to pieces. Oh, Mother, what have I done to deserve your callousness? Did I ask you and my father to bring me into this world? I lived long enough to feel protected and loved by you in your womb. With each passing day, I began to be aware that you do not love me anymore. What happened, my mother, for you to decide to disown me, your child? I know this much. I am not beautiful and worthy enough for you to keep. This indescribable feeling is far worse than the impending crushing pain of dismemberment that you and my Father consented for me to suffer. I find solace that our Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, loves me, and I am grateful for that. I know that He will use my suffering to spare countless unborn lives. In a short while, I will be with Him. I promise that I will ask God to forgive both of you for the horrific abuse that I'm about to endure. I hear the footsteps of the white coat team getting louder and louder as they come closer. It sounds like a cavalry marching to the beat of the battle drum, hurrying through the killing field. They have arrived, and my heart skips a beat, my pulse racing throughout my entire body. Suddenly, I lost sense of time as I anticipate my fate. I brace for the piercing bite of the cold metal vice-like instrument as it is pushed through deep into my mother's womb. The heavy-handed madman probing and invading every square inch of my refuge. The tearing of my limbs, organs, and other body parts is imminent. Finally, the excruciating pain from the snipping of my flesh and bones spread throughout every fiber of my struggling body. I cry out uncontrollably for God to come to my rescue. I pray for the Lord to ease my pain and take me away to his kingdom in heaven. Simultaneously, I offer up to God every tissue of my body that is being violently mutilated for the protection of the unborn. My hands for him to guide the evildoers. I say again, evildoers. That are blinded for selfish reasons. My feet for him to discourage them from committing such heinous crime and walk away as far as possible. My eyes for him to help them see the blood stain of the bodies of the innocent lives that they are ripping apart. My ears for him to have them hear the horrible moaning of their victims. My head for him to give them the intellect to discern right from wrong. And my heart for him to give them so that they may feel the agonizing pain inflicted on the poor, helpless lives like mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Mr. Reynaldo de Lisa.
Chairman Dennis Rodriguez, Jr., and honorable members of the Committee on Health, Tourism, Military Affairs, and Senior Citizens. My name is Reynaldo de Lisa. I am a resident of Tumon, and I am testifying as a private citizen. I am here to urge you to pass Bill 232-34. Let me start with a refresh on the basic principle, of the basic argument of the anti-abortion position. It consists of three simple statements. Statement number one, it is always morally wrong to deliberately kill an innocent human person. Statement number two, abortion is the deliberate killing of an innocent human person. Statement number three, therefore, abortion is always morally wrong. That is the basic argument behind our position of anti-abortion. Our civilized society holds dear to the principle of the inherent dignity of living things, the highest and most basic of which is the inherent dignity of every human being. Based on this principle, our civilized society strives to advance the humane treatment of living creatures. This is why we even protect animals by prohibiting cruel and painful acts against them. Bill 232 recognizes the scientific evidence that at 20 weeks, the unborn child in the womb can feel pain. At this stage, the abortion procedure typically involves a technique that, if inflicted on any human being who has been born, we immediately would see as painful and brutally violent. Therefore, it is only right that we, as a civilized society, ought to forbid abortion at 20 weeks or later. But let me get back to that basic argument. Like Father Jeff was earlier, I was shocked to hear a doctor concede that the fetus is a baby. What kind of society have we become? You know, for a long time, the argument against those three statements was the question of whether the fetus is a baby. But now we're starting to hear the concession that it is a baby. Is that a bad sign of what this society is becoming or has become? Think about that. And also, somebody else testified earlier that what if the baby turns out not to be able to feel pain? Or what if we gave the baby inside the womb anesthesia? Does that make it any less wrong? Does age make you less or more human? Does being 24 weeks versus 20 weeks versus 99 years? Does the number of years of how old you are make you more or less human? Does the ability to feel pain or not feel pain make you less human? Does skin color make you less or more human? Whether how dark you are, how light you are? Think about that. Does location make you less human? Does the fact that you're inside the womb versus outside? But we just heard that a doctor concede that the baby in the womb is a human being. What do we have to what are we here to argue about? The word that I heard a lot earlier was interests. Interests outside that doesn't focus on the baby. Nobody's denying that this is hard. Nobody's denying that the mother suffers, or the family suffers, or the community suffers. Nobody's denying that this community needs to beef up its health care and mental health care. Nobody's denying that. But the issue here is abortion. Even the word pro-life. Yes, I am pro-life, but pro-life nowadays tends to distract. Let's focus on anti-abortion. This bill is about the unborn child. Let's focus on that. And then we can take care of the other things. Those are important as well. Let's be more pro-life, not less. So let me end with this. In her speech at the National Prayer Breakfast in 1994 to President Clinton and members of Congress, Mother Teresa of Calcutta said, "The greatest destroyer of peace today is abortion, because it is a war against the child, a direct killing of the innocent child." She's right. Deep down, we all know she's right. Why is she right? She was right because when our society accepts the direct killing of the most innocent and the most helpless among us, then our society will have abandoned the very foundation of peace, which is the recognition of the inherent dignity of every human being. Therefore, in the name of peace, I urge you to pass Bill 232-34. Si Diyos Masi.
Jesus Masi, thank you very much. Ms. Mary Lou Martinez.
I'm going through a cold right now, so I hope you can understand me. If I may, I would also like to read a testament of someone who couldn't make it, and this is from Mrs. Maria Rivera Tenorio. She wanted to testify and present her testimony because she offers an alternative to abortion. And I will read hers. My name is Maria Rivera Tenorio. I'm married to Deacon Francisco C. Tenorio for 59 years. Every time a bill such as this on the floor of this legislature, we make it a point to present to either to support or oppose. Although I am aware that this particular bill might reduce abortion, I'm not totally convinced that it's okay to kill an innocent human being if that human being is only 15 weeks old. I guess we can rationalize and say at least some babies might be saved. But your God and my God said, "Thou shalt not kill." Now about this bill. Some of you might ask, do women have alternatives? What can we offer women in their time of crisis? In my experience in the 20 years that the Catholic Pro-Life Committee was formed, we have helped hundreds of women who were in confused situation and seeking to have an abortion. We cannot claim that 100% of them didn't end up having one, but we can honestly say that with the Holy Spirit guiding us on what to say and do, yes, we did have a lot of success stories. This is the alternative to abortion, adoption. Adoption is one alternative that most women will consider, and yes, we have facilitated several adoptions, and to date, some of these women come up to us to thank us for making this available. Here is the structure of our adoption procedure. A lot of couples are not able to conceive a child, so they ask on how they can adopt. We keep a list of interested adoptive parents and call them for an interview. They come in and fill an application. Based on their answers, Deacon Tenorio sees them 2 or 3 times to make sure that these applicants are sincere and honest, and that their motive is not for tax deduction only, but rather to have a child who will be loved. After they pass the screening, they go on to be on the list of eligible adoptive parents. When a woman changes her mind about having an abortion and agrees on having the baby adopted, the adoption process begins. There were incidents when the natural mother would change her mind and chose to keep the baby. In this case, we make sure that we follow up and continue to help the mother with clothing, food, and Pampers, etc. There are some attorneys who have been very kind and not charged for these services. They prepare all the necessary documents, appear in court, and do what is needed to finalize the procedure. Senator Rodriguez and members of this committee, I want to challenge you to come up with a bill that will make abortion history. If a woman chooses to kill her baby, what can we say? It's a woman's right. What about the other women in the womb who are being killed? She has nowhere to run to, no choice, and therefore dead. I know about the Constitution. I know about Roe versus Wade. But why is it that women from other islands come to Guam to have an abortion because abortion is not legal in their place? Think about it. A woman in the womb might one day vote for you. And that was the testimony from Mrs. Maria Rivera Tenorio, who, with her husband, Deacon Frank Tenorio, directed the Catholic Pro-Life and always made sure that the alternative of adoption was available to all the women. And it is available. So if any of the women tomorrow may want that option, she can start the procedure right away. Thank you. Now, I will proceed with mine. First thing I want to do, and I will have Christy help me, is because pictures say 1,000 words, more probably than we be able to do. And I would like to present to each of you a copy of what a dilation and evacuation abortion, or DNE, of a fetus, what it looks like, the procedure or the method. I also am not trained in medicine, nor am I in that profession, but anyone looking at this procedure will know that it cannot be that the baby will not feel pain. If you look at the first diagram, what happens is the doctor inserts a clamp that has teeth like a long tooth clamp, and inserts that and tries to feel for a limb, and then clamps it tight and pulls and tears the limb from the body of the baby. Diagram B shows the body parts are pulled from the fetal body and pulled out through the vaginal canal. In diagram C, you will see that the remaining body parts are grasped and pulled out, and at this point, much of the limbs and parts have been torn and ripped from the body. In diagram D and E, the head is grasped and crushed in order to remove it from the vaginal canal. Now, the abortionist says some abortionists would inject that digoxin in order for the baby not to feel the pain. Well, guess what? He kills the baby and stops a beating heart, because what that drug does when it's injected, it slows down the heartbeat to the point where it just stops. So abortion stops a beating heart. And because they know that it causes pain, the method of dilation and evacuation, they inject that drug, thinking that that will legitimize their abortion. Dismemberment abortion is what it's called. Regardless of what the medical system calls it, it's dismemberment. And there's the bottom line. I also want to show you a model that is a realistic model that we use when we do counseling for women who are thinking about abortion. This is what a 20-week-old baby looks like in the womb. If you want to put it down, so Christy, so they can pass it down, you will see that the baby is fully formed. It is not a tissue or a clump of cells or tissues. That's why they need to perform the dismemberment, because it is fully formed and too large to be suctioned out. In your diagram, you also have a diagram of the abortion method before 20 weeks, which is called suction and curettage abortion. And this is of a 9-week fetus that you have there. What they do at that age, because they're smaller, is they suction it out, just as you would suction out when you're running the vacuum cleaner, and then the parts are collected in a container or a jar. So the baby may not have the pain there, but it is a baby after all. I support this bill, but I'd like to suggest that the bill put emphasis on language that acknowledges not only that the unborn baby has the capacity to feel pain, but focus on the reason it feels pain, a pain which we cannot imagine, the pain of dismemberment abortion. I would venture to guess that no one here has ever experienced the pain of having parts of their bodies or limbs torn and ripped, not surgically removed, but violently ripped from your body. According to Dr. Jean A. Wright, who is a professor and the chair of pediatrics department at Mercer School of Medicine in Georgia, by 20 weeks, she says, and perhaps even earlier, all the essential components of anatomy, physiology, and neurobiology exist to transmit the pain sensations from the skin to the spinal cord and to the brain. Fetal science shows this to be true. As a matter of fact, abortionists know that fetal pain exists, and this is why they acknowledge that the baby feels the pain of being dismembered. But isn't that just common sense? Dismembering parts of bodies of a human being will cause pain. I went through the explanation of the dioxin, which is the drug that is injected to stop the heartbeat of a live unborn baby. Abortion is not health care if it resorts to killing a human being. Now, Vivian Wahlberg, a pro-choice author from Sweden, says this in her book about abortion. Often an abortion involves a conflict of an existential as well as ethical nature that can place both the nursing staff and the patient in a dilemma. To protect and save life and to sometimes assist at its very beginning are the ultimate goals of medical practice. An abortion is directly opposed to these goals. She's an abortionist, or she's a pro-abortion, she's pro-choice. What she's trying to say here, actually, is that abortion is taking a life. She knows it. Abortionists know it, but they still support aborting unborn babies. It doesn't really matter to them how it is done. Now, we believe that we are a civilized society. We have laws that protect animals, our tropical flora and fauna, laws that even protect our coral reef. We take pride in and care for our young unborn. I commend the mayors who I recently read got together to provide a level of quality of life for the elderly who were disenfranchised. But is it civility to take the life of the voiceless, unborn? Or is it barbaric? Is it civility to take advantage of our power over helpless, unborn babies, to butcher the baby's body? Or is it savagery? I'd like to think that politics is not the motivation for allowing the heinous act of dismembering an unborn. The option of adoption exists, senators. If today a mother wanted instead to save the life of her unborn, that procedure can begin tomorrow. So we're here and we turn to you, our lawmakers, because when natural and civil sense are wanting, many times it is social laws that can bring us back to focus on the unwritten universal understanding and acceptance, that innate impulse to protect and care for each other, even in times of danger. In God's eyes, nothing is more important than human life, particularly the life of the most helpless in all mankind, the unborn. And why not? Jesus, after all, confirmed the dignity and sanctity of fetal human life by first becoming a fetus in his mother's womb. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Julia Santos.
Thank you very much, Chairman Rodriguez and the honorable members of the committee. I struggle with this issue, especially speaking on this topic as a man. However, as the good gentleman earlier and Knight of Columbus, Mr. Bob Pelkey, stated earlier, we are Catholic men who only wish to protect the women and children of our community. And so I went to meditate and pray on this issue and pray for the strength to come and speak before you today. Coincidentally, it was right over here at Cathedral. And I had an epiphany while I was there. The doors were locked, and so I was walking around to the southern side of the church to see if the doors to the chapel were open, and I happened to witness a tourist couple. I believe they were Korean, and the woman was visibly pregnant, and she kind of lost her step, and her husband immediately went and tried to catch her, and his first instinct was to put his arm around her belly. And the epiphany I had was, there is no pro-life and pro-choice. I believe everybody in here is pro-life. Unfortunately, maybe the pro-choice individuals have the burden of choosing one life over the other. But I believe we are all still pro-life. And so that act in itself, the reason why it made me believe we're all pro-life is because I honestly believe that there isn't a single person in here who would strike a pregnant woman, no matter what stage of pregnancy they are. And why is that? Because nobody wants to hurt the baby. However, I came here with that notion in my mind, earnestly trying to listen to what the pro-choicers have to say. Children being abused, and that is extremely unfortunate. However, is it for us to sit here and decide if whether or not their lives are not worthy of giving them a chance? Just this weekend, I volunteered for West Care Mentorship Program, and most of these children come from at-risk homes, or they're at-risk themselves, who've been abused, but who are coming out of that and seeing the light and seeing a better life because of the community around them. Also, some people may be financially unstable or financially unfit to support a child when it's born. And then with that, I thought, well, personal responsibility might have prevented that situation in the first place. And somebody spoke about how there are already regulations in place, at least they regulate themselves. I believe it was Dr. Annie Berdalio. And so why can't we make those regulations legitimate with this bill? And so that's why I support Bill 232, because it seeks a reasonable compromise between both sides. It allows women and it affords them the opportunity to consider this very, very difficult decision that they'll have to make for themselves. And it also states that if their life is at risk, then the law will make a special consideration for them. And it also addresses the concerns of the pro-life group in this room today, and the protection of the future children of Guam. I'd like to keep my statement very short. I'll conclude with these stats because I talk about the future children of Guam. Last year, 2017, we had 239 abortions in total. 91 of those were Chamorro, future Chamorros of Guam. This year alone, we already have 41, and of 41, almost half of them, 18, are Chamorro. If you include Chamorro Filipino, Chamorro Palawan, that would put you at half. Those are future Chamorros of Guam. I'm not trying to turn this into a racial argument or a racial debate, but we are the native people of this land, and we are seeing our future children, our future Chamorros, being taken out by abortion. I'm not going to argue the semantics of why those procedures need to be made, but if we can prevent more of them and assist the women in these particular situations, I think that's the better route. And so I thank you for taking on the burden and the responsibility for having to make the decision for what is best for the entire community. Because if one side wins, then everybody else loses. Again, I appreciate the intention of this bill to find a reasonable compromise between the two groups to provide equality under the law, because I think that's what we all seek here today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Julius Santos. Mr. Robert Gleeman.
I'd just like to start off by just thanking the Lord for the opportunity to come here. I just ask the Lord to touch the hearts of these senators. Forgive me for being nervous and even for being cowardice. I just come to you, Lord, and I ask that you give these senators clarity of mind. Reach into their hearts, the depths of their hearts, oh Lord, and show them that you love them. And I give you all the glory and praise, Lord. So I just want to say, you know, I don't consider myself anybody, really. I mean, the only thing I have, really, is that I am made in the image and the likeness of God. If anything, if I could claim anything, it's that I deserve to go to hell for the sins that I've committed. My sins have killed Jesus Christ, but yet he loved me. And he loves you guys. He loves each and every one of these senators sitting up here. And I just hope that you guys understand that, you know? I'm not here to condemn anyone. I'm not here to say that you guys are going to be going anywhere. I can't read your hearts. Only Jesus, only God can read your hearts. He knows your intentions and he knows exactly what you're going to do. And I just want to let you know that the battle has already been won. God has won the battle already. We just need to be faithful to him. So I just want to let you know that I'm not here to condemn anyone. You know, I just got a text message. I was working today, and I just got a text message and telling me about this meeting. I had no clue that there was going to be a meeting, and I just walked in, and I just found out, like, you know, I could talk, I could say something. I'm a Catholic. That's number one. You know, it doesn't matter what my race is. It doesn't matter about who my mom or my dad, where they came from. I'm number one. I'm a Catholic. And I prepared a little poem for this occasion. I mean, I was running. I got up at 4 p.m. today, and I just ran home, typed it up real quick, prayed to God to, like, that he can just give me the words to say and everything like that. And then I took a quick shower and came here. You know, I couldn't even print it out. It's on my laptop. But this is the poem that I wrote. I couldn't even give it a title. I just called it Anti-Abortion Bill Poem. It goes like this. Dear Jesus, I woke up, you gave me another day. I know, they're still killing you, what can I say? You've blessed me with a career. I've prayed for it so. I promise I'll make it up to you, but don't ask me to do nothing, no. I've been so busy lately. So much on my plate. Now you're back again to spare you from this fate. I have more important things to do. Don't you know it's kind of late? The federal government will take away our funding. Can't help you right now. Come again when I'm running. I'll help you then because I'll really be in need of funding. Time goes by. I'm not in politics anymore. I'm getting old now. Who knows what you have in store? I wake up. I'm not in bed. The judgment seat is before me. This can't be. I'm not dead. Why are you asking me what I did for you back in my day? That was 30 years ago. What can I say? I killed you 10,000 times. How can that be? Wait, I didn't make time for you when you were shouting for a plea. It's been forever, and I can't sleep. I'll never see you, God, because I killed your sheep. So, the reason why I wrote this is because not to say that, hey, you know, you guys are going to go to hell for this. No. If someone is going to go run off a cliff, you know, and you're standing there and you can do something for that person, you know, and you stop them and that person says, hey, why are you stopping me, you know? And they get mad at you and they might even want to like strike you or something, you know? In your heart, you have the intentions of, I'm trying to save that person's life, you know? I'm coming here to you guys, and I'm trying to give you guys, encourage you guys to do the right thing. You know, don't jump off that cliff because it is your choice. You have a will. Each and every one of you guys have a will, and that's the right that God gave you. You can choose yes or you can choose no. And I ask you guys, please, vote for this bill. You know? 85%, more than 85% of this island is Catholics. So that means 8 or 9 of you guys, excuse my language, but you guys are Catholics as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if you don't vote to protect life in regards to abortion, that's an automatic excommunication from the Catholic Church. I could be wrong, but that's what I looked up, you know. And I cannot imagine not being able to receive communion. Like, I literally would die. Like, I wouldn't be the man who I am today if it wasn't for the Catholic Church, if it wasn't for communion. You know, so I'm just coming here humbly and I'm asking you guys, pleading to you guys, to just please consider passing this bill, the bill 232-34, and thank you for your time.
Sedus Masi, thank you very much. Ms. Sharon O'Malley.
Thank you. It's very hard to follow Mr. Robert over there. He's pretty good. I like the way he started off, if I'm nobody, I'm like, whoa, you are somebody. You did a very good job, Mr. Robert. I don't know who you are, but you did a good job. I came with a prepared statement because I was trying to keep myself from going overboard because I tend to go rogue and talk a lot. So I'll read my statement, but I am going to go a little rogue here and there. Sorry. So, dear Senators, my name is Sharon O'Malley, and I am here to ask for your support of Bill number 232-34, which is the Pain Culpable Unborn Child Protection Act of 2018. I am not an eloquent speaker and do not wish to take up much of your time when I am certain there are some great speakers here among you who can say it much better than I. Yes, I am a Catholic, and I won't deny that since most of you know that I am an active practicing member of the Catholic Church here on Guam and see me everywhere, so I'm not going to lie. Okay, because this is not really a Catholic issue, but it seems to be, oh, it must be Catholic. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like that, but that's what everyone thinks, oh, Catholic. That should not be held against me. Why? Because I am sure you know that there are Catholics who are pro-choice, and that's a very obvious problem. A lot of Catholics are pro-choice simply because they're just too polite and don't want to offend anyone. And I have come against so many of our wonderful Catholics who are, oh, it's not your choice, and I tend to like back up, and then, but now I've learned not to back up, and I cannot just back off. And like that man says, I cannot step aside and not try and save the soul of that person and bring them to the attention of the fact that I'm a Catholic and I believe in life. So some of these Catholics, they think that it's a woman's decision, it's her choice, and no one has a right to tell them what to do with their bodies. And I keep hearing that. Well, I am a woman and I don't agree to that. Everyone seems to have rights, and yet I am amazed that in these modern times, women and men are still trying to convince themselves that the little baby inside a woman's womb is not alive. It's not a living being and has no right to life. And you, being politicians or simply said, just want to be politically correct and don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, there's that thing again, you have to be politically correct, separate from your religion, represent everybody, blah, blah, blah. Well, don't be comfortable, because you will be surprised to know that as modern technology has gotten more sophisticated, people are more aware of the fact that a baby in the womb is alive and actually already a human being. I think Father Jeff mentioned that too, and because of modern technology, even the pro-choice people cannot start justifying abortion after a certain time frame in the womb. In fact, my daughter is 13 weeks pregnant now, and she sent me an ultrasound of her 12 weeks pregnancy, and I saw the baby. I saw my grandchild. I mean, I can literally see his head, his body, his feet, his hands. It's modern ultrasound. This was done back in Florida, and I was like, wow, at 12 weeks, I see my grandchild. I mean, how can we not deny that that's a baby? It's a baby. 12 weeks. Unreal. And so then the right to life is the first right from which all others flow. And that a society that doesn't respect the lives of small preborn babies can't possibly be expected to respect the lives of any of its other citizens. Simple as that. No, let us look at what it takes to have an abortion at 20 weeks gestational age. To remove a preborn baby, and Miss Mary Lou over here gave you visible pictures, and some of you didn't get to see all the pictures, and I'm sitting here looking at all of them, and I have seen them before, and even if I've seen them, I still grimace when I see the pictures of them removal. In fact, I was at a workshop conducted by Dr. Marjorie De Benedictis, Miss Mary Lou, and they showed pictures of aborted babies cut into pieces, and I was, when you see that, and I've seen it before, but every time I see it, and she was doing this workshop and showing the different stages of what kind of abortions are performed at different age levels, just like Mary Lou was trying to show you pictures of. If you ever see one of those, how can you not deny it? I mean, the baby, sucked up, there's the dead body. I mean, that's a baby. Cut up in pieces, put it back together, that's a baby. You can't deny it. Okay, so to remove a preborn baby at 20 weeks, one would have to dismember the baby. So just to be clear that we all understand what dismember means, I went to the dictionary and read, definition of dismember for English language learners. 1, to cut or tear a body into pieces. 2, to separate something into smaller pieces. Again, just to be clear, we need to cut that preborn baby into pieces to remove him from his mother's protective womb. Tear him into pieces, slice him up, and at the end, crush his skull just to make it fit. Yeah. Maybe he didn't cry, right? If that's what you want to believe to make yourself feel better, then go ahead and believe that. I'm going to use that so silly example which professors love using all the time, and yet it works for this situation again. If a tree fell in the forest and no one was there, did it make a loud noise? I always hate that, And I'm saying, of course it did. You don't have to be there to know that when it fell, it made a tremendous amount of noise. It's common sense. It made noise. And so, if a preborn baby was dismembered in his mother's womb and no one heard him cry, did that mean he did not cry? You try cutting off your own little fingers and your own toes piece by piece, and what do you think? Did it hurt? Did the baby cry? Let's go back to that tree. Yes, of course, common sense. Now let me conclude and ask you to please support Bill number 232-34. And of course I'm going to go a little rogue after I finish my last quote because I had to comment about those people who came and make their wonderful statements to oppose the bill and then they all left. They don't want to hear anything. They just want to hear themselves, and then they all left. You know what I mean? They all left. I don't see them here. Huh? They left. Okay, so I close with a written discussion from Pope Pius XI. Remember, I'm a Catholic, so I'll use as many Catholic things as I can find. And he wrote this: those who hold the reins of government should not forget that it is the duty of public authority, by appropriate laws and sanctions, to defend the lives of the innocent. And this all the more so, since those whose lives are endangered and assailed cannot defend themselves. This was written, Pope Pius XI wrote this in his 1930 encyclical, Casti Canobli, I don't speak language, among whom we must mention in the first place infants hidden in the mother's womb. And if the public magistrates not only do not defend them, but by their laws and ordinances betray them to death at the hands of doctors or of others, let them remember that God is the judge and avenger of innocent blood which cried from earth to heaven. And that was written by Pope way back in the early 1930s. So thank you for that time, but I'm going to go a little rogue here in response to, I think I still have time, right? Huh? Okay. So Annie Berdalio opposed it, and she was going on, and she was saying inadequate health care. I'm like, have you ever been to GMH or Public Health, Annie? Obviously not. I went there one night with my son, and I was the only one with insurance, and it was jam-packed full of people. I was the only one making payment. Everyone else had some kind of health care insurance, which is called free health care. They walked into GMH, which is why it can't pay its bill, and they all were seen by the doctor, taken care of. All those people who go to public health, they all have health care, and they don't have insurance. So I can say they have adequate health insurance. They're taken care of. And I know some people who don't have insurance who apply, and they got Medicare or something, and a lot of them have it. And then they have child care that takes care of them as long as they're working and going to school. So I know that it's possible to have children and be adequately taken care of. And then Anita Arreola had the nerve to imply that we're not there for the child abuse cases. She obviously is not there with us, because I looked around at this room and I was like, I know all these faces, and I've seen them at all the homeless feeding, at the Elise shelters, at the Knights of Columbus. They are great supporters, and they do so much for the community. All these people here are out there helping as much as they can with all those child abuse cases, counseling all those people who are hurting and hungry. How could Anita, say that we're not there? I'm like, when do we sleep, Anita? Maybe you're at the court and you only see one side. I'm like, And then Annie even, am I done? Just tell me.
Okay,
just
if you can wrap up, please.
I gotta wrap up? Okay. And then there was an implication somewhere that maybe some people shouldn't be having children. I'm saying, when is one person to say that people shouldn't be having children? Just irks me. Okay, there's a lot of people out there, but does that mean that we have to abort these babies? Huh? Because we shouldn't be out there having babies? So, no. And then Mary Lou presented the beautiful adoption point by Deacon. I happened to be in a room when a lady gave birth, and she was supposed to give her baby up for adoption. The adoptive parents were downstairs. The lady changed her mind and kept her baby. I felt so horrible for the adoptive parents downstairs. I really did. And I see this baby that she decided to keep. I felt bad for the people downstairs, but she kept this baby, and I've seen this baby. This baby's like 4 or 5 years old now, and she's a wonderful mother. So she made the right choice. She did not have an abortion. When she first found out she was pregnant, she thought she would not be able to keep the baby. She was giving it up for adoption, but when she saw the baby, carried the baby, she decided to keep the baby, and she's a wonderful mother. So there's a lot of options out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony this evening. Thank you. We'll call now David Zibio, Donna Mila Taitano, Gregory Perez, Jose Martinez, I don't know if this Avia or Aina Flores, and Miss Agnes White. Jose, we can start with you.
Oh man, don't go away. I want to look at all the senators. Thank you. My name is Jose Martinez. I was only gonna submit written testimony, but I wanted to provide a couple oral testimony points. So thank you for allowing me, senators. The Bill 232, Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, has a lot of words to it. And maybe some words are left off, like dismemberment, which should be put in. But the main point of what we're doing here is to protect lives. Lives of the unborn, including the lives of the mother. Because an abortion doesn't stop at the procedure. The abortion extends beyond the procedure, sometimes late in the lives of these women who have had abortions. And those statistics of physical and mental harm will be provided in my written testimony that I'm sending to the senator. But what I wanted to do is go point by point of different things that I was going to say you may hear, and we did hear in opposition to this bill. Number one, you heard distracting arguments. You heard arguments about people who are in pain that are already alive. You heard arguments of children who are neglected and abused. All meant to grasp your heart and to distract from what we're really talking about, and that's the pain that is felt inside the wound when a baby is dismembered to honestly take their lives. That's the only result of an abortion, is to take a life. Let me also read something to you that I found interesting. Typically, 3 drugs are used. Sodium thiopental is used to induce unconsciousness. And I'm not a medical doctor or anything, or even know how to speak very well, but these are the words you can find online. Panacornium bromide is used to cause muscle paralysis and respiratory arrest, and potassium chloride finally to stop the heart. Some of the medical doctors here that testified earlier in opposition said that, or one of them said that they won't feel the pain because we inject chemicals to stop this. But what I've just described was lethal injection for a death penalty. So let's call this what it is. It's a death penalty on a child. Another point. There was one time in this nation, and I'm referring to the United States of America, which we are a part of, that there were certain humans that were not considered persons, and those were slaves. And we had to have courts determine that they were persons. Sometimes the courts didn't determine that they were complete persons. And some of the opposition will come up here and tell you that the courts determine who a person is. Roe versus Wade is the law of the land, so that's what must stand. All the courts, especially the Ninth Circuit, which we all know we should not trust, because they struck down a lot of laws that are common sense but are meant to... okay, I'm going off track. Let me just put it. So right now, the unborn is not recognized as a person, but we all know that the unborn is a human. We know it's a human because it is not an elephant. It is not a squirrel. It is not a snake. It is a human being. 2 people come together, male and female, to create something during consummation. And I dare any of these doctors to say medical evidence shows that it is not a human. If it's not a human, then what is it that we're getting rid of in the womb? So the courts may have passed a law to legalize abortion, but that was in the past. And we know that the courts have made grave mistakes as far as defining what a human or a person is in the past, and they have been overturned. 2, and these are number points. Another point, there were many examples that were given that were exceptions as far as why abortion procedures happen. The number one I hear a lot is that the life of the mother is in jeopardy. That is a very extremely rare exception, because Roe versus Wade did not legalize abortions to save the lives of women solely. It was to legalize elective abortions. Elective abortions, no matter what the reason is. Now we have here on Guam a law that states that doctors have to submit how many abortions that they've performed. But we don't have any statistics on the reasons why they had to perform those abortions. And a lot of the arguments on the past bills and laws that were passed against getting this information was that it violates the rights of the privacy of the woman. But in the Guam Vital Statistics books of 2016, There's a long list of all the medical diseases reported here on Guam, all the way from AIDS, whooping cough, herpes, syphilis. I consider that very private if somebody was to report that, but all done anonymously. And none of that violated people's rights. So why is it that we cannot know the reason why an abortion was procured? Maybe because they're elective. Maybe because they don't want you to know that there was no medical reason. These are things to think about when the opposition wants to try to stop you by using language that sounds nice, but there's no foundation behind it. Another point. Some examples are horrific. Maybe the baby has a fetal life-threatening situation. So if it's life-threatening, then we should terminate their life right then and there. You know, Iceland just a couple months ago had bragged about their 100% no Down syndrome baby births. And everyone thought, wow, medically they must have found something to stop Down syndrome from occurring. What was happening was they tested for Down syndrome, and if the baby had it, they terminated its life. 100% turned into they were imposing the death penalty on babies. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I'm going to send it to you as written testimony. But the test for Down syndrome is not 100%. Babies are born, quote unquote, normal, even though sometimes they've tested for some abnormalities. And who are we to determine what the quality of life is for anybody? What if I'm going through a depressive state right now and I can't function in society and I can't even function myself and I'm paralyzed in bed like some people testify when they are in the depressive mode? Is my quality of life determined that I should be terminated? It's horrific to think that we determine somebody's quality and we don't even ask them. Another point, the opposition was that, why do we need these laws? We already have things in place and people have common sense. Well, why do we have to be reactive to everything? Why can't we be proactive? Why do we have to wait till maybe abortions get out of control, then we'll start to talk about it? We can start now and set a precedent, say to every mother, every father, every family, every child, that we protected you, not because you were in danger of being harmed, because we want to make sure that in case something happens, you're protected. In case somebody thought of the idea of aborting you, we said, no, we can't because we have these laws in place already. We can't go backwards and put together a baby who's been aborted because a law was enacted. But we can move forward by enacting it so that in the future, these abortions don't happen, elective abortions. Pain. We're here arguing about whether medical experts have determined babies have developed a sense of pain at 20 weeks. But no, it's mostly at 26 weeks. Or maybe it's at 30 weeks and not until they're born. Why are we gambling that? Why are we thinking that we can just put a number to when they feel pain? Why is that the threshold? A man and woman come together to consummate and create a baby, create a fetus, a human baby. Why is that not enough to protect them? Why do we have to create these artificial thresholds as if it makes us feel better? Some people didn't want to sign the petition because they said, I believe in no abortions. Why am I signing a bill or signing a petition that says it's okay from 19 weeks and before, but not 20 weeks and after? And as disheartening as it was that they didn't sign, I agreed with them. Why are we giving this artificial line to something that we all know is a human being? Two, always two. Everything's number one. My last point is just, We talk about rights. But the only person who loses out on this is the one in pieces on that metal tray. And no one talks about the rights of that little baby. And probably because it's still in the womb when it's silenced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose, and we'll wait for your written testimony. Okay. Donna?
Good evening. I really didn't expect to speak, but as I was listening to people here, I am shocked that someone I admire would be against this bill. And I sat here listening to her, and I'm not, Dennis knows, I'm not a politician. I avoid all conversations that have to do with anything that has to do with politics. But I have a story to tell. In high school, I was the battalion executive officer for ROTC at GCC in '87. I was also the commander for the unarmed drill team. I represented Guam, and I won all these trophies. But the biggest thing that happened to me that year was I had a friend whose boyfriend was in my team. And he came up to me, and he was in tears because his girlfriend was being forced to have an abortion. I grew up in a family where I didn't even know about affairs. I knew I had a mom and dad, I had brothers and sisters, I had cousins, but I had never known of people who would be disloyal to their wives. I didn't have that concept in me. I didn't even have concept of, I mean, I was a senior already, and I didn't have the concept of people having sex before marriage. I would say my dad did a good job in making sure that I grew up with the right morals. I had just finished confirmation the year before. You know, the church decided to do it later. But we sat through a film on abortion, which totally shocked me. And honestly, as a student at GCC, I'm from the North, and I come from this family that everything's kind of protected, and I walked into a school that had families where parents were divorced. And coming to my house was like, was the first time they felt parents. And they would eat our food, and my friends became my brothers and sisters. My team became my brothers and sisters. It was really amazing. But it also introduced me to a world that I wasn't ready for. And my friend, who was my third squad commander, came up to me because his girlfriend was pregnant. And I was thinking, why would your girlfriend be pregnant? We're in high school, bro. But she was pregnant. She was already in her, I want to say her second month. I knew the family. It was a very difficult family, drugs and cops. I remember sitting in their outside kitchen / living room, and the house was being raided. And I was like totally shocked. I didn't know things like that happened here in Guam. But she was the youngest sister of my brother's best friend. And her boyfriend was my friend. And he begged me to talk to her mom because he didn't want his baby to be killed. But he had no say. His opinion, his rights, was nothing. I didn't know what to say to these people who I thought loved life, because they seemed to enjoy life, barbecues every weekend, parties, and all this stuff, right? But I remember talking to her and talking to him between the buildings, the T buildings at GCC, and she revealed to me that she had already had 2 abortions, all forced on her. Not her choice. The family made the decision, and I was shocked. She was just a freshman. But she already had 2 abortions, and she was going to go for a 3rd. And stupid me, always thinking I can save people, asked her what time it was supposed to happen and all that stuff, stole my brother's car, truck, whatever, Jeep kind of thing. I didn't even have a license yet. And kidnapped her, kind of, and we drove her to Talafofo, and we hid there. And the ROTC commander had to look for me, and I was like the most hated person because we wanted to protect this baby. Her grandmother, who gave me my first taste of a job, kind of, told me that all I'm doing was making her life miserable because she would be responsible for raising this baby, feeding this baby, doing everything to make this baby. Dr. Berdallo said, women knew what was happening in their bodies. But you all know that when you get a woman pregnant or she finds out she's pregnant, the first thing she does is go to that book that says pregnancy for dummies or something like that, because we don't know. My friend just wanted to have her baby. And the laws of Guam allowed parents and grandparents to dictate that they should have an abortion. That girl is now a mother of 4. We get to connect through Facebook. I have pictures of her running around our house because her family didn't want to take care. My family went crazy learning how to take care of people who couldn't take care of themselves. And our 3-bedroom house became a house for every teen that was having problems. But the biggest thing that happened to me in my senior year was trying to save a baby. And the only reason they were able to force her to have an abortion was because we had laws that allowed it to happen. Her dignity wasn't protected. She wasn't told anything. But now she's alive. And yeah, we struggled. But isn't that what we're supposed to do? Right? We teach confirmation, and honestly, I posted what was happening here in our chat. And we have a variety of families in this chat. And what's crazy is the one family that I never thought would say anything about anything was angry in our chat. And she said, how come you didn't tell us? We would have come down here to the legislature and said something. I really didn't think public hearings would be this emotional and so important. I don't want to be in your place to make the decision. And I pray hard that you would make the right decision. And I'm appalled that Attorney Arreola would talk so condescendingly to you guys and saying things that, where are you for those children, when I know many of you reach out. Maybe if she just focused on reaching out more instead of attacking you and providing more solutions, we wouldn't be here. We would be celebrating life. My job is to grow the fungus to kill the rhino beetle. I come out of this container because this legislative hearing was happening. I work hard to try and save our island. But for what if we're going to kill our babies? That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Donna. Thank you. Ms. Ana Flores?
Well, I must say this. The truth is the truth, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not. And I believe in a democratic form of government. Democracy rules. The only time that's a problem is when the majority rules. What is being at stake is bad, wrong, or evil. When it's bad, wrong, or evil, and the majority goes for it, that is law. So there, remember this, that we are founded one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Not just for a few, but for all, born or unborn. So when our Almighty Creator, who knows all things and is surely is aware that we must not kill, and abortion is killing, definitely killing. He includes in his commandment, thou shalt not kill. He did not say or give us a choice when, how, where, or what age. He just said, thou shalt not kill. And let me say this. Abortion became law in our country, in the United States of America, only because the silent minority were too silent. And they made the very loud and vocal minority win. The silent majority were quiet, and the minority were so loud. And that's why, people would say, the God-fearing people would say, don't worry, that law won't make it. It wouldn't pass. And that's how we got abortion. I think that's it. Oh, okay. I think I said everything. Amen.
Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you. We have the final four. Maria Moffinis, I believe, or Elizabeth, Anne-Marie Hiroshi, and Maria Espinosa. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here in support of Bill 232, the Unborn Child Protection Act of 2018. And in other states, it's commonly referred to as the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. And I will be interjecting a little bit here and there. I have with me that we were not able to compile before the public hearing, but I have with me my share of a total of 184 petition signers. And this lovely woman, Auntie Annie, provided 2 sheets, 15 names on each sheet, all by herself. She doesn't own a car, doesn't drive, but she manages to get around, and if you need anything done, she's the gal to look for. So all of those sheets, Annie Flores brought them, was able to secure that many signatures. And there are more to come because she wasn't able to go and get the ones that her friends, that she issued to her friends. And so I will be submitting this, and then Mary Lou will present the others for testimony. And okay, so one of my first recommendations, I'm kind of like a very to-the-point kind of person, and you'll be happy to know my testimony is very short. All the information that I gathered in my head, it just all boils down to just a few concise statements. I highly recommend, and it's possible that it will be already, it's being done, that we change the name to the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, because we want to regulate abortion at the time that the unborn child can feel pain. It is legal to have an abortion, but we want to regulate it, and this is an excellent way. What parent man or woman wants their child to experience pain. And this is the way to do it before the child is even born. Abortion at 20 weeks or more involves dismemberment. In simple terms, dismembering means that an unborn child's body parts are pulled apart, limb by limb. I recall my firstborn daughter, we were in the States, and she was running out to the street, and the only way I could prevent her from being run over was to pull her arm. Well, I actually did a kind of dismemberment because the jerking action was so strenuous that it dislodged her arm. And we had to go to the hospital and they had to snap it back on, and that was very, very painful. And then can imagine having it done in vitro, limb by limb. It is a savage, gruesome act of violence. How can we as human beings ignore this violence to one of our own kind? We have to keep that in mind. Those cells in vitro are not going to become a cow or a horse or a frog. Those cells are going to develop into a human being. And who are we to be doing such savage procedure on anyone, any human being? For a fact, we have laws on Guam to protect all various animals and fish. For example, I'm just used to going to the Guam Code Annotated in Title 10, Chapter 34, subsection 342005. It's talking about animal care, and you know, when I read it, it's like, really? Wow, you can get in so much trouble. It says, no person shall beat, cruelly ill-treat, torment, overload, overwork, or otherwise abuse an animal. We can't overwork them or overload them. But right now, it's legal to tear a human being limb by limb. That's okay, unless this bill is passed. But heaven forbid we overload or overwork a dog. And stipulates penalties on how anyone objects to this barbaric intentional act of violence which demands the tearing of human being by pulling their body parts apart and suctioning out their brain. Well, how is that head going to get through? They suction out the brain so that the unborn child can be removed from the woman's body. We have to protect our children, even those who are unwanted by their mothers. There are organizations in government to support a woman so that she can continue to bear the child until birth and offer the child up for adoption. And we've heard testimony that it has been done and it can be done. Okay, I'm the kind, I like to look at the bill and look at it. I even look for grammar, if I can cite it, and didn't deal with any of that in this bill. But it is kind of confusing. As the chairperson for the legislative committee for the Catholic pro-life, it gets kind of confusing because you have a Title 3, subsection 3218, which is called the Partial Birth, Abortion, and Abortion Report. And I just have a simple thing. And we need to delete the words that say partial birth abortion, because why? Under Title 10, Chapter 91A, and I provided copies for all of you so you don't have to go look for it. There is a law already in place, and it's called the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act of 28. It gets kind of confusing when you're talking about partial birth up there, and this Chapter 91 is way down, really far away, that you get confused. Well, I thought we already have a partial birth. A ban on a partial birth. It's very, very wonderful thing to know and to be comforted that a woman cannot decide at the last minute that she doesn't want this child at 8.5 at the day of birth. And the doctor can literally remove the child's head, snip behind the head, kill it, because technically the body has to be inside the woman. Kill it first and then pull it out. So it is illegal to do that, and I suggest we get rid of those words because it's contradictory to the law that says it's illegal to do that. Second, in existing law that requires the abortionist to report various data, the last item, number 24, and if you look at the bill that you have it has the original, which has been crossed out to be changed to a different language of determining the gestational age. But it does say that the gestational age as measured in weeks, he has to write that down, of the unborn child terminated by the abortion. And so what I did was I was able to get a copy of the last year's abortion report, and I'm sure you should be all getting it. And it's a back-to-back copy, and on the number, on the last column on the far right, it says gestational age in weeks. So they have, that's a new law, fairly new. And they do have it, but if you look at the very last item just above the total, it says 17 of those fetuses, unborn children, are 13.0 weeks old or older. Well, the law says it has to be in weeks. And unfortunately, the only penalty for this abortionist is a misdemeanor, a penalty of perjury and misdemeanor, according to Public Law 33-218. Well, let's hop to it and find out what's his problem and what is he trying to hide. That 17 of them have no identifying statement of how old those children are, those unborn children are. 17 of them, we don't know. They could have been much, much older. And these are the group here of over the 13 weeks that we want to be sure that hopefully none of them are beyond the 20 weeks where they are capable of feeling pain. Okay, and the reason why we need to look at that, the abortionist here is because it's not just in the subsection 3218, it's also further along, it's also in 3218.1, and that's referred to as the informed consent requirement. We do have that law recently passed again that says a woman cannot have an abortion until after 24 hours, and the abortionist has to provide a booklet of all the information, make sure she's informed what her unborn child looks like at the particular gestational age that this child is, and also her options, the kind of support that she can get if she chooses to keep the child. Public health will provide her with the WIC and with the this and that. And then if necessary, they will find the father of that child and get him to support. All of the various options are there.
Ma'am, if I may, if you can just wrap up, and if you have it written, then you can submit it to us. Thank you.
So there are two sections that require the abortionist to state the gestational age, not just in 3218, but it is also repeated in 3218.1. Okay. And then on my third point here, we have been told that GMH does not do abortions, but in last year's report, there were 2 abortions performed at GMH. They actually reported it. We don't know if it's one woman with 2 separate abortions or, with twins, because there was an indication that there are twins involved in the abortion, or 2 separate women with a child each. So something unusual must have happened, and I hope that this or these women receive life-saving treatment at GMH, gladly that they were sent there, and a prayer to the children who they killed. That's what it is, it's a killing. Real quick, of the 239 abortions, and fortunately for the Informed Consent Act, it's finally showing that women are able to think about whether they really truly want an abortion, and it was hitting more on the 300 in 2016, but last year it went down to 239, a significant drop, and hopefully every year it'll continue to lower the numbers. Senators, is this what we want for our island? Meaning the abortion? We are a predominantly Christian, not just a Christian, but a mostly Catholic community. A community establishes its moral through its laws. You hear another testimony of Iceland killing off their babies when they find out that they have Down syndrome. How many of us know somebody who has a child who's Down syndrome? They are precious, they're happy people. Why are we going to kill these children? And hopefully it doesn't reach Guam, that kind of mentality. Senators, you must pass Bill 232-34. We cannot allow our unborn children to be mercilessly pulled apart limb by limb. Last but not least, I want to thank all of the co-sponsors who quickly, Senator San Nicolas, when we did a survey in January, he was the very first one to tell us that he supports the banning of regulating of abortion. And then, of course, Senators Rodriguez, Senators Agin, Talina Nelson, Senator San Agustin. I think there was 5, yes. Thank you, Senators. You are the guardians of our moral compass. We want to keep Guam good. We want to keep Guam with God. We want to keep Guam Christian, our laws to reflect our Christian mentality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, you go ahead. Can we just turn on your mic, please, ma'am? Just press the button in the middle. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rodriguez and the honorable members of the committee. My name is Maria Mofnes. I appear before you to ask for the passage of the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act of 2018. Unborn babies cannot defend themselves. They cannot fight back when they are in danger. How can we look away? How can we possibly turn our backs on human life? How can we allow doctors and clinicians to dismember the unborn baby's body parts piece by piece and not be bothered by it? This method, or the use of lethal injection to end the lives of unborn babies, is murder. These helpless human beings can neither speak nor act for themselves. Their silent cry for help goes unheard. Can someone truly justify this heinous act? Based on scientific evidence showing that fetuses have the capacity to feel pain, I pray that you pass this legislation to ban abortion after 20 weeks gestation. But more than this, I pray also that abortion be banned altogether. I thank you.
Jesús Masi, thank you very much. Ms. Cruz, Ms. Donna Cruz.
Good evening. I will do my best to make this very quick. So I want to thank Senator Rodriguez and all the senators that co-sponsored this bill. I'm very grateful to hear about the testimonies and the many aspects of the bill. I do support Bill 232-34 to save the 20-week-old baby and to, yes, altogether ban abortions, period. I am Donna Cruz. I'm not anyone of very significance except by his faith who loves us, who loves me. Our bodies are not our own. It was bought with the price even before time. I like to say, to include when we officiate our friendship with God, the Almighty, that the day of salvation by Calvary wrought on the cross is pretty real. If the things of God in the Bible are true. By the way, I represent the Protestant community, so I apologize too that many are not here, and I absolutely congratulate the Catholic Church for their abundance of testimonies, which is amazing. We have a law in place that when we allow abortion, that's a law against the commands of God to our personhood. The Comforter, the Teacher, our Holy Spirit gives confidence to every person for life on earth to live in full by choices for life. Life everlasting by Him, by His Word in the beginning. In the beginning was the Word was with God. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. On us, going on the science note, the cell structures are very different between a plant, an animal, and a human. So therefore, the conception to the full growth of a 9-month-old baby, from conception to full birth, is realized that by conception, a baby understands his destiny by the conversations he hears. And these things about what he says, and he makes judgments about himself or herself. This is a ministry that's here on Guam where we counsel the wounded, and it goes back all the way to the womb, where we have to realize, where did our wounding begin? So the baby's spirit, soul, and body is definitely impacted in the womb. And then again, I want to touch on our community, our area here. We are coming to a place of sophistication in our community life, our civilian life, our values have been raised. We want to give value to the woman. And if we can value the woman in this community, in this area of the Pacific, close to the Orient, we can probably do a lot more. We can probably do a lot more. I'm pretty sure we can, with all the babies that could be saved. So I also want to touch on all the leaders of this area, that we should be conscious. We should have a conscience of life and living, so that we can choose rightly. And we are these people that by majority influence the young generation. And why is it that they're in a majority of influence? So we have great influence, teachers, parents, mothers. We heard the mother, you better not be pregnant 3 times. I mean, truly, there's got to be alternatives. So mothers, women, and it was really good to hear men testify in support of this bill, who also can value life, and to hear their heart. So yes, I plead with you to reconsider the support for this bill that will preserve life. So I thank you.
Sejus Masi, thank you very much. So we have exhausted our lists of those who wish to provide oral testimony today. We'll go ahead and keep the record open and invite anyone who wishes to provide written testimony to submit that to my office, or they can have it dropped off here at the Guam Congress Building.
If I can
Yes,
just
ma'am.
update the total, I was just brought these other envelopes, and so aside to the 184 that I brought, there are 1,800 petition signers, giving us a total of 1,984. If I can get 16 people right before I get out, we'll make it an even 2,000, but this is for you all to
Great.
review.
Thank you very much, and we'll make sure that's part of the record for this bill. Again, thank you very much. The time now is 8:20, and so the public hearing on Bill 232-34 has been completed, and the hearing is now adjourned. Sejus Masi.